there's never been anyone like him.
I've given up absolutely nothing.
No comedian as original.
He not only told you the joke, then he showed you the joke.
The first time I opened the cage, he ran up my arm and stuck his dick right in my ear. He did.
No entertainer as inspirational.
I wouldn't be me without Richard Pryor.
No performer as resilient.
He was rushed to the hospital with mostly third-degree burns over half his body.
Y'all did some nasty-ass jokes on my ass, too. What's that? Richard Pryor running down the street.
A man who took us through the depths of darkness to bring us out into the light.
To be vulnerable on the stage, that takes courage.
And it seemed fair to kill my car to me, right? Because my wife was gonna leave my ass. You know, I said, not in this motherfucker, you ain't.
And there's been nobody.
He left everything on stage.
Absolutely, positively, nobody.
He was the god.
No, I went to jail for the IRS, income tax evasion, last...
You're kidding.
No, they wasn't kidding either.
Funnier. In the comedy world, one name carries the title of the greatest.
Richard Pryor.
Richard Pryor. Richard Pryor.
Here is Richard Pryor right now.
What we created spawned a whole generation.
Uncut, in your face.
That guy has got it. First show I fell in love with.
Good time. Jefferson.
A movie star, that's rare.
Fresh new energy.
Multi-dimensional.
Unapologetic.
People want to see.
You can't even talk about black comedy without
You have comedy? Eddie Murphy.
Kings of comedy.
Kevin Hart.
Pryor, Chappelle.
fundamental to the black culture. You can't do no show talking about black comedy and not include Richard Pryor. What they say, from great tragedy and pain comes very funny comedy. He definitely found the funny in it.
And I am really personally happy to see anybody come out and see me, right? Especially much that I done fucked up this year.
I think I quote something from him weekly. There's no one better.
I didn't watch any of his stand-up until I was actually doing stand-up, like 2014.
Whoa.
Yes. I'm watching this in 2014, and I'm watching a special from 1979. And I've never watched him, but I knew all the material, which told me everything I needed to know about his influence on my genre.
Thinking about death, though, I'd like to die like my father died, right? My father died fucking. He did. My father was 57 when he died, right? And the woman was 18. My father came and went at the same time.
Yo! Hey!
You know our first guest as an actor, writer, stand-up comedian.
I thought you were supposed to be the Wayans. Which one are you, Tito?
Please welcome the great Marlon Wayans.
How are you, sir?
I'm good, man.
Thank you for doing this for us.
You're welcome, man. You're welcome. You know, you call, I come walking.
I love it. So, you were supposed to play Richard Pryor in a movie. Will we ever see that movie?
I don't know, man. I hope so. I read 5 books on Pryor. I love him.
What are some things you learned about Richard that the world doesn't know from when you were trying to become this character?
I think he's viewed as a bad guy a lot of times. And I think every villain was a victim. Mm-hmm. We spend so much time in society dealing with damaged people like they had ill intent all along. Some people are corrupted and hurt and damaged and stomped on, and then they become that thing that is the villain.
Right.
Richard Pryor was, yes, he was abusive to women, but Richard Pryor grew up in a whorehouse.
He talks about this horrible upbringing.
I was a child, right? And I grew up in seeing my mother go in the rooms with men and my aunties go in the room with men. You understand?
What's up?
How are you, sir?
I'm good, man. How you feeling?
You like books, don't you?
I love books, man.
Wait till you see whose apartment we're about to be in.
Oh, my goodness,
Hold on.
really?
Don't die before the shoot.
Professor and best-selling author Michael Eric Dyson.
The latest book by best-selling author Michael Eric Dyson.
First of all, black people, as I've said from the very beginning, have had to entertain for white America. That's on the slave ship, on the plantation. Sing us a good song.
So we're here in Ralph Ellis's apartment in New York.
Right.
He actually sat in this, not this direct chair,
Right.
but this was what he would look at and write out.
And can you imagine? We're sitting in the place where black genius unapologetically expressed itself with such vigor and such power.
It seems like it all equates to the same things Pryor was doing.
Yeah. Richard Pryor was a marvel of nature. He was a skinny black kid with bug eyes at points. His grandmother was the, owner of a brothel. His mother was a prostitute.
No, I learned from myself what people are like, because I met some nice white dudes, they used to come down. Hello, little boy. Is your mother home? I'd like a blowjob. I wonder what would happen if niggas go through Beverly Hills doing that.
His daddy was around, but then really wasn't. He got raped as a child. He had trauma. Richard Pryor lived an American nightmare.
Right.
In so many ways. The existential anxiety, the hurt, the pain that he then filtered through his comedic voice from tragedy to comedy.
How did he become a comedian?
He was always like the class clown, like every comedian, right? Every comedian. He was funny in the military. He was always funny, even though he got in trouble. It was the comedian that hung around the gangsters, and he gonna get the punch in too. Right. Richard was never like the gangster like that.
Do we know what his inspiration was to start doing stand-up?
He wanted to be Bill Cosby.
Hey, we gotta catch him, but the band has gotta pull my lead. I don't care about that running. Jump on us. All right, let's go. Wouldn't it be nice if the horse said, wait a minute. See you crazy.
He seen this jello-eating nigga making money, and he was like, fuck that nigga. I want that money. Because Cosby was that guy.
Well, Miss Kitty Cat, how would you describe Jello pudding pops?
Perfect.
Right. And so Pryor was like, I want that. And so that's what he was trying to do. If you watch his all stuff, and he's very... That ain't Pryor. Remember when he was like...
My mother's Puerto Rican, and my father's Negro, and we lived in a real big Jewish tenement building in an Italian neighborhood. Every time I go outside, the kids say, get him, he's all of them.
I want to talk about the transition from Richard Pryor saying, I'm not going to be this Cosby clone, to when that fateful night he bombed at the Aladdin Vegas.
He didn't bomb.
Okay.
He was actually doing well.
That's even better to hear.
He was on stage at the Aladdin in Vegas doing his gig.
Right.
He was making them laugh with his Cosby types jokes.
Right. Suit and tie.
Suit and tie, and Dean Martin and all of them was there. And everybody was laughing at his jokes. And he stopped. He looked around. And he was like, they're not laughing with me. They're laughing at me. I don't want to be this kind of stand-up no more. I'm not a monkey. I'm not a fucking clown. I'm a comedian. And I don't care. Just left the stage. He got blackballed from all the casinos. Caesar was like, we ain't gonna hire you no more, like, blackballed.
Mm-hmm.
And then he went to
Northern
Oakland,
California. Right.
at Berkeley, and that's where he found Richard Pryor. Because he started talking about his voice, his truth. And that takes balls.
Man, thank you for doing this.
Oh, come on.
Right this way, sir. How you been?
I've been good.
You look rich.
Yeah, thank you. I feel rich.
Ladies and gentlemen, George Lopez.
You are a legend.
Good evening, ladies. And welcome to Lopez Manor. Please store all of your belongings in the drawing room. Tut-tut!
I would say much like a Buddhist is drawn to the Dalai Lama, I was drawn to Richard. For me, he was more than a comedian.
He goes to Oakland. He starts doing these smaller rooms. He's not getting the money he was making in Vegas.
No.
But he's
hooking up with women. He's got nice kind of hippie chicks on the side, and he's hanging out with the Black Panthers. And I think he's finding the language of like the street of the motherfucker this and became friends with that at Long Beach. He introduced Huey Newton, much like Santana's from the Bay Area, the Grateful Dead.
Right.
Hendrix played in San Francisco, and that thing that if you're gonna ground yourself to something, you're gonna find it in Oakland and in the Bay Area.
Right. So we're talking the 70s, right?
Yeah.
You're listening to these albums.
Good evening. Hope I'm funny. Yeah, because I know niggas ready to kick ass.
And are you thinking, yo, one day I want to do this? My generation's introduction to Richard Pryor was the albums and the tapes and us being downstairs trying to sneak and listen to our parents' albums and tapes. And then think about how bold he was. He had an album called Bicentennial, nigga.
Yes.
Hillbillies fuck good now. Now, come on. Let's fess up. Hillbillies, they make noise when they fuck, right? Hot damn!
I love his growth. Like, he went from being this squeaky, clean-cut comic.
You can't get a cab in New York City, right? Especially when it rains. All the cabs are owned by one company, off duty. If you're lucky enough to get a cab, you get in and say, driver, I want to go to 78th Street. Driver says, I'm not going that way. I want to go to 78th Street. You're going to give me a tip, I'm going to tip your cab over. You don't take me to 78th Street.
And then evolved into, like, I'm going to just tell my truth. I'm going to be who I am. And that's when he, like, put the smack down.
Shit, I'm gonna find me some new pussy. Women come back at your ass, all right? You know, you had 2 more inches of dick, you'd find some new pussy here.
I was lucky enough to have, you know, Chicano guys that had older brothers, and it was albums back then.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, we would be not far from here in Van Nuys, this guy Art's apartment, sitting in a kind of a, you know,
circle
furniture that you're paying on forever, with a coffee table there, and at Richard Pryor Greatest Hits, he had the guitar on, and
right.
You know, and we would just look at nothing or at each other and just start laughing.
No, my father used to really fart great in the morning. He did, man. He walked through the hospital.
Every waking minute of my adolescence, I would just have it in the. It was just kind of like the Rain Machine. It was just on. I just wanted to hear how you would go from one thing to the other.
Right.
And I mean, that was the only way. There was no YouTube. That was the way you learned. It became the thing that I brought to my house, you know, and that I grew up with. My grandmother was the only black person we let in the house. Was Richard Pryor.
What was his appeal?
I think it was more the tone of it, you know, the language, and more of the just hilarity of this guy. I mean, I didn't know anybody that was that funny.
I used to try to pimp, because my hero was a pimp, Clifford. I couldn't pimp though, because the bitches beat my ass. That's right, end of the week, they had me horned.
You have the same story as many people where you had to sneak downstairs and listen to it and hope your parents didn't hear you.
You know, it was one of those things.
Or did you have a liberal house where everybody could come listen to Bicentennial Nigga with Mummy?
Yes, they were liberal in their beliefs and Republican in their control.
Got you.
So you know, you would hear it in the neighborhood, you'd pass them around, you'd get little tapes, you'd get little, you know, but the albums, like, oh man, you heard that?
You know, like, you can't talk about fucking in America, right? People say you're dirty. But if you talk about killing somebody, that's cool. I don't understand it. Myself, I'd rather come.
To sneak and hear the Richard Pryor stuff was gave you a sense of intimacy with your fellows, like we were doing something that we shouldn't be doing. And it's amazing because this guy cussing his butt off, but so smart, so intelligent. Because I think Richard Pryor was a public intellectual trapped in a comic's body. He was relentlessly trying to examine the Constitution of American life. And I don't just mean the document, the Declaration of Independence. I mean how we're made up, who we are. And he was an anthropologist in that sense. And he's doing it in comedy. He's doing it as a black person. He's doing it before black and white audiences. And he's making both of them feel that they buy into what he's about. That's a level of genius that is pretty remarkable.
Right, because it's obvious. You know, he's talking about pimps and hoes in the early albums and early specials.
And the hoes be going, oh yeah, get it, baby. Oh shit, daddy, yeah. Oh yeah, honey, ain't no white man ever fuck me like you, baby.
That was something that was kind of in our community, but not theirs, but yet it still appealed to them.
Did you know that?
Wait, the niggas going, yeah, we know white folk. No, I had no idea.
How did he make that stuff mainstream and popular?
When you think about the fact that he's giving a drive-by vision of black life, he's giving a slice of Americana to people who don't understand what it is. When you take black humanity as your starting point and you take blackness as a norm, that means the good, bad, and ugly comes out. The universality of the presumption that I'm gonna speak from my particular slice of life. That's why Richard Pryor was so powerful and why white folk dug him so much.
Hey, girl.
Y'all show some love for D. Ray Davis.
Women, y'all liars. Y'all try to make all your girlfriends feel like everybody cute. Everybody ain't cute. Y'all know damn well you got that 8'7" Sasquatch bitch with you. Trying to make her feel good.
What do you have me at?
I have you on a back lot because I think you a movie star.
Hey.
And this is where movie stars kick in. I wanted to talk to you about Richard Pryor.
I love it, man. Please, always good to bring on Richard, the real comedy.
Yeah.
He would be all the characters.
You remember last summer when them 15 police come got that crazy nigga? 8 or 9 of them got fucked up? That's me.
So what you saw was a one-man play playing 10 different characters. And you sat there and you believed every single person.
He painted a picture so incredibly with his jokes that I felt like I was sitting in the front row.
And he had that odor. You know, I mean, this motherfucker had odor. He was in the car, you be driving, that odor was, motherfucker was whooping you all up in.
He made cursing okay. You know, you could call somebody a motherfucker for no real reason at all. You can add it right on into your speech, just like you was talking to your friends on the corner.
Motherfucker looked at me, and the motherfucker, I'm gonna kill this motherfucker here.
He evolved what we do on stage as comedians.
Can't talk comedy without talking Richard.
Did you ever get to meet him?
I didn't. I got real close at the Comedy Store, but I think, you know, he was leaving as I was going, and I always say to myself, like, sometimes I purposely do things slow so I don't have to accept responsibility for that action of meeting him. I want to meet all the greats, but some people I feel like I wasn't ready to be in the presence of. When I think of Richard, I think of his stand-up, the characters he formulated on, the characters he would build.
See, Mud Bone is a person was born in Mississippi, and he dips snuff, you know, and he talks shit. Like that there, you know, that was his job, spitting and talking.
I feel like, to me, watching him and like being a comic and knowing like what it feels like to be super down and like, I don't know what, I feel like once I step on stage, all that gets to come off and I get to be like, hi, my shiny self. And then sometimes I'm like, oh, let me bring this sad bitch back because she keep on not tapping me on the shoulder and I bring her out. And I feel like he did that.
Yeah. I did it so bad, dope dealers tried not to sell me nothing. Now that's doing it. Well, dope dealers say, man, I ain't gonna give you no more of that shit. I'm sorry, brother. I can't see you do it to yourself.
And I noticed with you, like, you always on stage are doing something original, fresh, and not easy to talk about. Not something like that's a light subject. First time I saw you talk about your mom, I was in the back laughing and crying.
Look, some of the women mad and shit. You can be mad if you want to. This is what fucking real life is. I ain't got no ha-ha crazy ass jokes. My life was fucked up. My mom been on dope since I was 10 years old. This is what happens.
Cause I know what that feel like.
I think it comes from, once again, giving love to Richard. He was really good at doing that.
My father was scary, boy. I'd piss on myself sometime. He'd call my name, Richard, huh?
Ability to take something like that teaching us, stepping out and talking about something like that ain't talked about as much on that platform, on that level, that made us more brave too. You know what I'm saying?
He hit me so hard, my chest just caved in and wrapped around his fist. And I held on to it with
my chest.
Without Richard, I wouldn't be able to talk about my mom, to talk about if you were arrested.
Go to jail in Long Beach is a motherfucker, man. It's just where you at?
I'm in Long Beach. Well, shit, we ain't coming down there to get your ass out.
Black culture loves Richard Pryor. The black culture loves D. Ray Davis. What is the secret to getting the black culture to love you?
That's a hard one. And if there is a secret to it, I'd rather not know it, so I don't pursue it if ever it's missing.
You know, racism and police brutality helps change your perspective on what you should be talking about on stage.
He was able to speak to us in a different manner. You know, he used to use the N-word a lot.
White people, this is fun part for me when the white people come back after intermission and find out niggas done stole their seats.
I mean, he could say things to white people right in their face and they would laugh because, you know, he was unapologetic.
You talk about, see, it's hard for me to say. I was gonna say, you talk about niggas. I can't, you can say it, I can't say it.
You just said it.
Yeah, but I feel so uncomfortable.
Well, good. You said it pretty good. This is not the first time you said it.
He had popularized it and made millions of dollars saying it as well as anyone has ever said it.
Oh, shit, he broke. Can you break a nigger? Is it okay? Let's check the menu. Yep, page 8, you can break a nigger right there, see?
Richard Pryor did racial and cultural comedy. It touched on politics.
Police brutality,
all that. So he gathered it unto himself, but he really was trying to really, you know, explore the cultural dimensions of his blackness.
It's hard enough just to walk through life decent as a person. But hearing another element added to it when you're black, and mother's got that little edge on us, is enough to make you crazy.
Richard Pryor made a major trip in the 70s to Africa. And while there, he, right then and there, said that he would never speak the word nigger again when he went to Africa and saw the majesty and the beauty of many of the African peoples. He came home and he really denounced the word nigger.
I was leaving and I was sitting in the hotel and a voice said to me, said, look around, what do you see? And I said, I see all colors of people doing everything, you know? And the voice said, do you see any niggas? I said, no. And I said, you know why? Because there aren't any. And it made me say, oh my God, I've been wrong. I've been wrong. I got to regroup my shit. I mean, I said, I ain't gonna never call another black man a nigga.
The actor Richard Pryor.
Ah, you're gonna get us in trouble. Harry, it's all right.
I can take it.
You know my condition.
Yes, I do. You're suffering from a severe case of full of shitness.
His honesty in movies. Do you have a favorite Pryor movie? Not only was he vulnerable on stage as a comedian, but as an actor. You know, his dramatic
What about that Bustin' Loose?
I know, with Cicely Tyson.
Yes.
Even in The Wiz, the vulnerability.
The Great Oz has spoken.
Did you wait? The Wiz is a black version of The Wizard of Oz. Okay,
Don't
good.
do that.
Okay, good.
Nah, I don't. You can't even be black for real and not say The Wiz.
Do you have a favorite Pryor movie?
I thought he was brilliant in Lady Sings the Blues.
I can handle it. It's not the idea of that, man. You're gonna get messed up out here in the streets. Why do you got to do that? You're a star now, you understand?
He was masterful in Which Way Is Up.
Nigga, you got to get some pussy before you can have some kids. Shit, I'm knocking the bottom out of mine, ain't it, mama?
This is like, you got to think about somebody that changed the game. The first brother to play 5, 6 characters in a movie. That's a very hard thing to do. People think, oh, you're just doing this funny thing. No, to assign yourself to a character, to a voice, to do that, and then play against yourself in another voice. I know, because when I did Sextuplets, I wouldn't even thought to do Sextuplets, and Eddie couldn't have thought to do Nutty Professor if Richard didn't do Which Way Is Up. It takes an incredible actor. You have to be an actor. Fuck a comedian. a great actor in order to play 6, 7 people in a movie. There's a science to this. And Pryor was a great, great, great actor.
What the hell's wrong with you, man? You think you can say anything to anybody?
Don't you like me?
Yeah, I like you, but I don't mean I want to go to bed with you because I like you.
Why not?
You think everybody that likes you goes to bed with you?
Yeah, they do.
Well, they're sick.
I mean, this is a stand-up comedian. He's in Superman.
A small token of our appreciation to show to you for saving us from a chemical plant disaster.
He's a leading man.
I didn't know she had a fiance.
Who knew?
Did you know?
I didn't know.
I didn't know either.
It wasn't public knowledge.
So you were making advances to a woman who was clearly involved with another man.
You see, if you don't make calls, you don't make any sales.
This man does not represent me, Your Honor.
I would remove that from the court record.
Did shit with Harvey Keitel.
Let me talk to the new steward. Yeah, let him talk to me. Tell me about how you like the working man. You don't care about nothing but your own dumb Polak ass. Hey, Blood, you double-crossed me. You tried to get me killed, didn't you? I ain't your Blood, motherfucker. You do anything to stay out of jail. Even sell out on your friend.
Lady Sings the Blues. Could have won a supporting actor award.
Oscar, yeah.
When they beat him. I mean, it's just so...
Let me tell you a crazy story. So Stir Crazy is my favorite.
Yeah.
Me and my buddy are in the car, and we're talking about the scene when Pryor's on the bunk bed, George Sanford Brown is crocheting, and Richard's holding it, right? Dude, we pull up to Le Pond restaurant in Sherman Oaks. You know who comes walking out? While we're talking about it, George Sanford Brown. I'm like, we're talking about you right now. He said, why are you talking about me? We're talking about Stir Crazy, and you're right here in fucking front of us. And then he told us to cover Richard's story.
He's the one I'm gonna get you the cheeseburger from. How you like it, medium?
Oh, no. I don't want no cheeseburger. I'm trying to keep my weight down.
Don't worry about it.
Getting a little
touch. I'll protect you. For some reason, I'm making one easy.
I wonder why.
Richard Pryor had an incredible comedic partner, which was Gene Wilder. I think they did 4 or 5 movies together. Stir Crazy, See No Evil, Hear No Evil, Silver Streak. How great was Gene Wilder?
We're in prison. Well, goddamn, man. Welcome to the real world. Not a minute too soon, I might add. Now, brace up. Be strong.
I think they were great together because they took turns being the straight man.
Oh, please. He's sick. He's having a fit. See, he don't have his fit pills. He's got them. Where's your fit? He's got one.
It's very hard. Sometimes in movies, it's either you're the funny guy or the straight guy.
Right.
Man, what's lay? Lay. Oh, shit.
With the two of them, one guy had the idea, you know, the only way we're gonna get through this is I gotta put you in blackface. I can't do that. Sure you can. Now let me teach you how to be black.
Now, here, take this radio. When you step out of here, you gotta step out of here like king shit, right? You bad. I put that radio to your ear. That's gonna help cover your face, right? And just move with the rhythm of the music. Move your body with the rhythm of the music. That's all you gotta remember, okay? Let me see you try it. Step to the music. Step to the music. Yeah. Step to the music. Stop.
I never felt like they were stealing thunder from each other. They let each other have the floor, and that takes complete confidence.
Eddie, playing games already, Eddie. This is Eddie, isn't it?
George, this is Eddie Dad.
I knew it. Hello, Eddie. Hello, Eddie. Hello. Don't you kiss me no more, man. I'm gonna kick your ass. Oh, you're gonna kick my ass.
And I think that Richard introduced Gene to a whole different audience, and Gene introduced Richard to a whole different audience. It was like, here's this wacky, whimsical white guy that you could trust this crazy nigga with.
Right.
And Richard was like, he's a cool white boy. I think they weren't like besties like that. I think they were work friendship. I think they just had 2 different lives.
Right.
And, you know, and Richard was high as shit, like for some of those movies.
Right.
And that's the beauty of Pryor, was he was just that great and that crazy that you just had to find a way. And they found a way.
Right.
Richard could make you laugh and cry all in the same sentence.
I'm through. No. You ain't gonna get me.
Shit.
I just thought that was a great superpower.
60s, 70s, there's black exploitation, right? That starts to fizzle out. This young, dramatic, comedic actor starts to rise, who is Richard Pryor. What kind of things did he go through being that lone wolf? Because these other guys, it was Jim Brown and Fred Williamson. And it's all this, we got to take it to the man, and they're wearing suits and guns, and it's all about bravado. But then here comes this guy, out of this mire, who's Richard Pryor, who kind of like, all that shit goes away, and now it's just him.
Richard struggled, but he was brilliant in everything he did.
Doing a little business with the loan shark?
Don't. Hey, Blindy, I am a legitimate businessman. I'm here to do business with Mrs. Palazzi. Real estate, finance my deal.
Laughed in your face at the bank.
Yeah, there was some laughter, but it didn't bother me. Spitting bothered me.
He did try to have an alliance because he had Indigo Movies. They offered him, I think it was a $40 million deal to do 6 movies.
Jim Brown was his partner.
He hired Jim Brown as his guy.
His company had entered into a $40 million 5-year deal with Columbia Pictures, in which Pryor's firm, headed by longtime friend Jim Brown, would turn out 3 films starring Pryor.
What we're looking for are good scripts that we can produce under my banner and put out in the marketplace.
But Richard was just such a mess at the time that, Jim couldn't get stuff done.
Right.
But Richard wasn't scared. He talked about his truth.
Are you totally off drugs?
No, I love drugs. I do, I really do, but I can't do them a lot because meth is my life. Every time I get in trouble, it's because I end up drinking too much or I end up snorting too much.
Richard struggled in finding the right things. He was just one of those guys who could do so much that it was, hard to find that right formula that worked for him. But that's a tough thing for anybody to own and to transition into, especially when you're on drugs.
39-year-old Richard Pryor almost died from burns. A mixture of freebase cocaine exploded in his home in San Fernando Valley, California.
He was rushed to the hospital with mostly third-degree burns over half his body.
Comedian Richard Pryor is in critical condition tonight and given less than a 50-50 chance of surviving after suffering third-degree burns over half of his body.
I guess for the kids who don't know, I don't even know what drug it was. It was basing. I don't know what, he was doing some drugs, some good shit. And he got so high that he set himself on fire.
Police said Pryor was burned because some ether and cocaine he was using in his bedroom caught fire.
And he ran out in the street and, it got extinguished, was rushed to the hospital, was on the news, because that's how we got our news. It wasn't a tweet 5 minutes after it happened. It was a big deal. It was watching, it was like everybody was around the TV watching boring-ass doctor give, his assessment on what happened to, our favorite comedian at the time. We didn't know what was gonna ever see him again.
There's a story that he was freebasing, that they were watching a documentary
The Buddhist monk.
Huh?
There was a Buddhist monk that lit himself on fire.
Yes.
In protest. And they said he didn't even flinch. Like, he lit himself on fire and he didn't.
Right.
He was in his pose and fell over. And Richard had 151 and poured it over his head and lit himself on fire.
So Richard flinched.
He like a motherfucker, he flinched. And was running down just an orange ball.
That was here?
Down on Parthenia, right on Balboa and Parthenia. I took the route one time at night. I used to work up down the street. I would drive by his house. I took oranges from his tree, trying to make orange juice, become Richard Pryor. But one night, when he burned himself up, after work, I went over there and went from his gate and in my car, took the route. It's a long way.
The route he was running?
It's about a mile and 1.7 miles.
He ran on fire for 1.7.
But then he had turned off, but then he was still kind of jogging and really like, you know, burnt. And the police pulled alongside of him and they tried to talk to him. He wouldn't stop. And he said, if I stop, I'll die.
All the people you ever heard of freebasing, have you ever heard of anybody blowing up? Why me?
To watch someone that huge have a tragic accident where you're burned and you know it's self-inflicted and it's because of an addiction. It was a big deal. Just the triumph of coming back from such a big tragedy that would have probably embarrassed the average soul to the point where they don't want to be in public anymore. We couldn't wait to see us stand up.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, man. When that fire hits your ass, that will sober your ass up quick. I mean, I was standing there on fire and some said, "Why, that's so pretty blue. You know what? That looks like fire!"
I just love the dynamic of how vulnerable he was because nobody could say anything because he already left it on the stage.
But I thank God every day, Jackie. I do. I say, God, thank you for not burning my dick. Because most people said, you've been punished by God. I say, no, if God wanted to punish my ass, he'd have burnt my dick.
How a Chicano kid would fucking just identify with that guy. And it was like maybe the first time in my life that you ever really felt inspiration.
So let me ask you something. Now, we can understand your appeal, right? Because people of color, right? And people of a certain economic status.
Right.
Being attracted to him because of some of the stuff he talked about in those conditions. But mainstream, wealthy...
I think it was the white voice.
Is that what...
Yeah, because nobody was really fucking with white people back then.
You ever notice how nice white people get when there's a bunch of niggas around? Right, they get outside, they talk to everybody, right? They say, hi, how you doing? I don't know you, but here's my wife, hello.
It's that counter.
Nobody was doing that?
That nobody was doing that. That was so fucking brilliant that everybody could fucking relate to that shit.
Right.
I wasn't I wasn't looking for a scholar to fucking follow. I was looking for a guy that that lit himself on fire.
Right.
I mean, Freddie Prinze and Richard Pryor were my two idols. One shot himself and one lit himself on fire. To know Richard toward the end, I met Richard in the early 90s, but he was just starting to get sick. But this is how much I loved him. I listened on the radio that he had MS. And I went to Best Buy and I bought a satellite radio. The satellite radio was brand new. And I bought a 2-year subscription and I took it to his office and gave it to him as a gift. He didn't know me from anybody. Just because I knew he was gonna be in bed and he wasn't the healthiest. And I did that day that I found out he was sick. Mm. And then I met him again, which was probably 10 years after that. Mm-hmm. And then I knew him and visited him a couple years before he died. He was in pretty bad shape, but his mind was sharp. Mm-hmm. So he'd make sounds. I mean, it was very difficult. It was difficult to be around.
Let's talk about his legacy. Richard Pryor's legacy, as I see it, can be seen with all the comedians that are here today. I mean, Mike Epps, Eddie Griffin, Kevin Hart, even Dave Chappelle and Chris Rock. You could see Richard Pryor in all of them.
The thing that I loved most about Pryor is that he was willing to be vulnerable.
Because I feel the tension from y'all. Y'all want me to do so well. I want to do so well for you. But let's relax and enjoy whatever the fuck happens.
Like, he was super vulnerable. Like, when men were not allowed to be vulnerable at all. And I don't know if it was the drugs that made him be so, like, here I am.
He was saying some stuff to make it. I wouldn't have told that, bro.
Now, I don't know. I'm a junkie. I weigh about 103. I look like...
But that really encouraged me to be like, oh, I can look at the things that I've been through and try to find the funny in it.
I grew up in foster care. Anybody else grow up in foster care? Okay, that's what's up. Okay, some other people in here abandoned, abused, and shit. That's what's up.
I would have never thought someone so hilarious could come from something so traumatic. And but it also shows you why his comedy was so in-depth. He could go really dark and bring you up out of it. And the crowd would appreciate that. because he experienced what he experienced, only he could be as honest and as dark as he was.
You gotta tell my favorite story. Was it the Comedy Store parking lot?
It was in front of the Comedy Store on Sunset.
Yes.
In like 1981. And there's a Canary Rolls Royce.
Canary yellow?
Canary yellow.
Uh-huh.
Just idling.
Right.
You can kind of hear it. It's not moving, but you get close up, you can feel the heat of it. And somebody said, that's Richard Pryor in there. I crawl up, I get to look around. He's got a micro cassette recorder and he's rewinding it. You can hear the laughs, you can hear him talking, and then he rewinds it. And I was like, right. And that was
enough.
That was enough. And I tape every show and have since then, even now, all transcribed.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, so I saw what I needed to see.
Did he ever see you get down?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
You know, when my grandmother passed, she didn't want to be cremated. But my joke is that I cremated her because I wanted her to know what it was like to be black for just a couple minutes. I cremated her and buried half, and then I kept half. And then one Christmas, Jennifer said, I have something very special to give you, but I have to give it to you in person.
Jennifer Pryor is exactly
his widow, Jennifer, yeah. So she came over to my house, and it's a small box, opened it up, had a little paper. It said Richard Lennox Franklin Pryor, born, date, and like some centimeter. It was a bracelet. And in that bracelet are some of Richard Pryor's remains.
And you own that now?
And I immediately took it upstairs and put Richard Pryor on top of my grandmother.
The movie that we hope will one day fucking come out, which is The Pryor Story.
I don't know what the fuck happened with the movie. Everybody was...
Yes. It was 52 of y'all.
It was.
Right? It was
Damon,
Brandon T. Jackson, you, Eddie
Brandon T. Jackson, and me and Mike Epps.
Mike Epps, the closest.
Mike Epps.
Sure.
And I think FC would have destroyed it as well. I have a project I'm working on to play him, but it's not a movie. It's a limited series. The actor in me wanted to play this magical, multi-dimensional role in Richard Pryor. And what happened was I found the multi-dimensions of Marlon Wayans. And Pryor taught me to be fearless and do not care about the audience because they will stop you from being an artist.
Right.
Artist tells their truth.
Feelings are a hard fucking thing to deal with. I don't give a fuck who you are. It's not easy to be bullshitting, you know, but when you get them feelings, somebody touches that shit inside you, that shit be fucking with you.
My integrity as an artist and as a human and my truth is more important than this money they're waving at me. And if I get that money, I want to get it my way. And when you do that, you get that money times 10. So that's what makes Richard a beautiful artist. Damaged person, crazy as fuck. But at least he had the balls to talk about his truth on a stage.
I woke up in an ambulance, right? And it wasn't nothing but white people staring at me. I said, ain't this a bitch? I done died and wound up in the wrong motherfucking heaven.